Welcome to Jen's Creativity Corner. Today I'm going to show you how to DIY 8 little crafty roses. So let's just jump right in. So first of all, we are doing duct tape. Now, most people usually have a roll of duct tape. I actually had these sheets, so I kind of cut it into the size of a roll. So taking it off and folding it over mostly, but you do want a little bit of stickiness exposed. And then just trimming it in the shape of petals. So I had this straw that was used, rinse it out, let it dry. And using the tape, we're first forming a little bit of a tight bud. And you have to just put it on at a certain angle so it kind of flares out. If you just put it on straight, then it's not going to look very much like a blooming rose. So the bigger you want it to be, obviously the more tape that you're using, but also the bigger of the petals you need to cut. And then just trimming up some of the edges. And then for the little part at the bottom, I'm sure there's a technical name for it, botanical name, but cutting some green duct tape and just where you get the little tiny leaves that meet the blossom. And then using some to cover the actual straw. Got a little bit of an unintentional crinkle in it, but it turned out okay, I think. I have not done a whole lot of duct tape crafts. I got a bunch a while back to try some, so I don't know if you have any suggestions, let me know and maybe I'll try it, but I think it turned out alright. Then doing the leaves, I did the same thing, folded it over so it mostly is two-sided, but a little bit so it has some tape to grip on. And then you've got a nice little long stem rose with the leaves down. I would love to know down in the comments at the end of this video which one is your favorite. So here is the first one, duct tape rose. Next up we are doing ribbon. This one you can make a variety of different sizes depending on how long your ribbon is and how wide it is. But anyway, you're going to take it, turn it at a 90-degree angle there. And then you probably did this with like gum wrappers as a kid, honestly. And then you're just going to fold it over back and forth until you get to the end of it. So 90-degree angle in the middle and then folding back and forth. So a little bit of a kind of an accordion sort of look. This is probably one of the simplest and nice because you could do it real quick for like barrettes or, you know, little hair doodads or like on a greeting card, maybe something like that, if you do them little like this. So you're going to grab it firmly at the end and then pull the other end. It doesn't really matter which end, just as long as you have a good firm grasp on it. Kind of looks like a pine cone there, but you just pull it until it looks more flower-like. So with this fairly thin ribbon, you're going to just get a little bit of a flower. You're not going to get this big beautiful thing. And then using a needle and some thread. I did try to do hot glue because, you know, lazy, but that really wasn't working very well. So just a little needle and thread does the job of keeping it in place. And then you can cut it off. And then using some green ribbon, almost said thread there, and some hot glue, making just little pointed leaves. Not super realistic, but I think it goes along with kind of the design. Most things in nature come in odd numbers, so I did 3 leaves on this one. There you go. So that's number 2, the ribbon rose, if that's your favorite. And like I said, it depends on the width. This much thicker one, you can get a much bigger rose, but you also need more ribbon, like it has to be longer as well as thicker. So there's just an example of what you can achieve with different widths. So this one is a fabric rose. I'm just using this little chunk of what is this? This is not felt, this is fleece. Yes. So you can see here, folded it over in half, long ways, and then just a little bit of folding. Once I've got a little bit of a bud going on, then I start folding it the opposite way. If I'm not describing it well, you can also kind of replay the video. But once you've started rolling it back, you just do that until you run out of the fabric. And you know, it took me a couple times to get it how I liked it, but it's really quick, so you know, it's easy to start over if you're not quite loving it. This is one of the more different ones because it really doesn't have individual petals, but it's a cute little rosette. And again, needle and thread is the best way to go with this to secure it all together. And because it is relatively flat, you want to make sure that you do get kind of all the layers in there so that your middle doesn't just pop out. And then I had some green fleece. At one end of the leaf, I kind of scrunched it up, so that way it's not just a completely flat leaf. It gets a little bit of a dimension, a little bit of curve like it would in nature. And just stitching them on. Again, you can do 3. I think on this one I might have just done 2, but this is flower number 3, which is a ribbon, or not ribbon, fabric. So I really like it. I think it's cute. It's definitely different than the others, but very cute. Next up is crepe paper. So again, we're using a straw, using that good old hot glue, and just some crepe paper I had from decorating from birthdays and whatnot. So I'm just making kind of the inside of the bud because it's hard to make it very three-dimensional around just a straw for this particular technique. So gluing it down well, decided to trim it a little bit. And then folding it, as you can see. You don't really want to see the inside very much, but you have to have a little inside of your bud. And then again, just like on the duct tape one, on all these, you have to be careful of making sure you get a little bit of curve and you get it open. I guess I have a culinary arts degree, and when we were in bakery classes, it was always important to make sure when you're making roses that you're giving them good petals, that they're not just straight up and down, because that just doesn't look very good. So this, you know, maybe not professional, but I think this was my second time trying, and I was pretty impressed with that. I like it. So just kind of bunching it and wrapping it around there at the bottom. Burning myself with hot glue a little bit. Just making sure to secure it well. And then again, just the little leafy bottom side where things meet. I should Google that, but I'm not going to. If you Google it up in the comments, yeah, let us know in the comments. Sorry guys, it's almost 2 a.m. and I'm doing this voiceover. Maybe not the best idea. Anyway, for usually more coherent content, subscribe. Do me a solid. Anyway. Okay, once that is on there, then we are going to, again, cover it up because not most flowers have blue straw-colored stems. This one is not as long stem as the other, but it's easier for me to show. So just trimming it off there and securing it. I think it would be harder to make good-looking leaves with the crepe paper, so I opted not to. Next up, I think this turned out as my favorite. Definitely more work than some of the others, but I'm just using printer paper, cut in a square, and then folded into 2 triangles essentially. And then I just made my own pattern. I think this is 5 or 6 petals essentially. So just a little bit of a squiggly design here, and making sure you don't cut out exactly, you want to leave a little bit where it ties in the middle. So doing varying sizes. Honestly, I really did wing this. I didn't have a pattern. so I don't have a pattern to give you. But you know, you can just try it yourself and experiment with it. This was the second one again that I had tried, and I like the way both of them turned out. So as you can see, they're meeting in the middle. You don't want them to be completely separate petals. And going from small to large, then I'm using scissors and kind of like you might curl ribbon, just curling some of the edges over, because petals, again, have dimension to them. So once you've curled them all, except for the very middle one, that one you're just going to make your bud, and your buds aren't really curled. They're just little tight guys. And then going across from the original fold for the next one. And the first time I did this, I did it with just like a craft glue, like a school glue. So you can do that too. It just takes longer to hold it in place. And securing that last part of the initial bud. I think honestly that's the hardest part, is making that part look good. So securing it to the next larger piece, and then putting on my glue and going around. As you're going through this, you will probably maybe smush the petals a little bit, even if you're being careful, but you can kind of like fluff them out with your fingers afterwards, if that makes sense. I think it'd be really pretty to do this also using some marker or something around the edges, so you get a little bit of a two-tone rose. This I think is my favorite. Again, comment down below what your favorite is at the end of the video. But you gotta wait, because you might like one of the others more. So next up we are using felt. So I just, again, freehanded these little felt circles and then cutting them in half so you have semicircles, using some thread and a needle, and you're just stringing a bunch of them along. So about halfway through you add a new one and just a really simple stitch. That's a little bit of experimenting. I didn't have exact numbers, I just kind of played with it. And then you tie it off, and using hot glue, you're going to roll it up. Now as you can see here, I did pull it a little bit so they're wavy. You don't want them to just be all flat. That's kind of the purpose of having this string, is that you can pull it and bunch it a little bit. And then using some felt leaves, just like I did with the fleece, kind of bunching it at one end and stitching it so it gives it a little more dimension. And then hot gluing them on there, or stitching them if you prefer. I really do like this one as well. Next up, we are using a toilet paper or wrapping paper, or like paper towel roll, that's the words. And I cut a little bit down the middle so that you can use some hot glue and bend them over so it gives them a little bit more of a curve. And then just going around and attaching them all. I don't know, this was probably my least favorite. I think I could have done a better job, but also just the coloring. Like maybe if I spray painted it or something, then it wouldn't look quite so bland. cutting it down the center of the tube to make the stem, if you want to make a stem. Then I kind of rolled it, tacked it down, and attached it. And then making some leaves, which this is, I think, the only one where I texture the leaves, because roses have textured leaves. They're not really just, you know, cutouts. And last but not least is beaded roses. So I actually have a whole video on that, how to make beaded roses. That's way more time. This has been a long enough video, but check that out. I absolutely love those as well. I appreciate you watching. Please do vote down below. Give this a thumbs up if you liked it. Feel free to share on Pinterest, Facebook, all that jazz. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.